With its culture and traditions, lochs and mountains, and the warmth of its people, Scotland is a country rightfully loved the world over. But like any country, it has its issues. In this video, we're going to investigate the so-called worst places in Scotland, the places you read about and hear about in articles on the news, the towns and cities you see in TV and film, the most deprived and the most crime-ridden areas, and the most inept councils. These are the 20 worst places in Scotland. Number 20, Glasgow. From shipbuilding and industry, football and religion, and putting traffic cones on the heads of statues, there's a lot to unpick here in Scotland's largest city. While I was there, I experienced a summer storm, pro-Palestinian protests, Free Palestine! Free Palestine! And a one-man protest against Hollywood.
Hollywood Red! Welcome to Glasgow. We don't care.
I arrived on a Sunday and the crowds are trying to catch a glimpse of the new Spider-Man movie being shot. Glasgow is used as a double here for New York City due to its similar architecture, and it's generally cheaper and logistically easier to film here. So I was staying on the south side in the battlefield area. I decided to walk there, and within half an hour I'd encountered my first discarded bottle of Buckfast. Just past the O2 Academy, it's surprising how quickly out of the centre you end up in this sort of no man's land. Here just off Pollokshaw and Eglinton roads, buildings are derelict and plants grow wildly. Further down, and there was a fella just lying on a sofa on the street with a duvet over him. And that's the kind of mad stuff that makes me love Glasgow. This area is Govan Hill, an area with a bit of a bad reputation amongst some people, let's say. It's got a high immigrant population, and from what I could tell, it's sort of semi-gentrified, but with a big litter problem. The old Victoria Hospital here closed after 125 years in 2015. It's now being turned into flats, and as we can see here, not all residents approve of the development that's going on in this part of town. Hampden Park is in the nearby exotically named Mount Florida, and this is the national stadium of Scotland for football. The British attendance record at a football match was set here with almost 150,000 packing in to watch Scotland beat England 3-1 in 1937. Here's a guy pretending to be Scottish. I'm not sure who that was. Rangers are one of the big two teams. They play at Ibrox Park. They've won 55 league titles, 34 Scottish Cups, 28 League Cups and a European Cup Winners' Cup. At the time of recording, Rangers have just sacked manager Russell Martin after a terrible start to the 25-26 season. The other big team in Glasgow is, of course, Partick Thistle. Partick play at Firhill Park, and no, I'm only joking, Celtic fans. Celtic were the first British team to win the European Cup back in 1967. Recently in Europe they've been pretty dire, but have absolutely dominated Scottish football in recent years, winning 13 of the last 14 league titles. The rivalry between the two teams is one of the fiercest in Europe, crossing ideological and religious lines, and when the two teams play each other, it's the only ticket in town. To be honest, it's way too much to go into in this short segment of this video. Right, time to get into some nitty gritty then. This is the shabby looking Cathcart Road back in Govan Hill, and we're en route to New Gorbals. So back in the day, the Gorbals was an area known for high population density and a fair bit of poverty, I think it's fair to say. Thousands of industrial workers were living there in huge high-rise buildings, and at its peak, 90,000 people all crammed into this small area. Since World War II, most of the flats have been knocked down and residents moved to estates and suburbs like Castlemilk or new towns like East Kilbride. The area had a pretty bad reputation in the 80s and the 90s especially, but now the housing is modern, and aside from a few bits of rubbish, graffiti and fly tipping that I've just shown, it's pretty clean and crime is low, and it's very handy, a walking distance in fact, for the city centre. One area of Glasgow that does still have a reputation is this place. This is called Postle Park, or just Postle. Postle grew up around the Saracen Foundry, with the main street we're on now being called Saracen Street. The foundry closed in 1967 and Postle hasn't recovered since. Unfortunately, the storm was raging when I went for a look about, and apart from the litter flying about everywhere and a rogue bottle of El Dorado, I didn't really feel like I'd got a proper feel for the place, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you guys can just let me know in the comments. Even during a storm, Glasgow is great for a one day. You've got viewpoints, hills, parks, churches and old residential buildings. You never quite know what you're going to find. The Glasgow Botanic Gardens are free to enter and to have a look around, but due to the mad weather, they were closed the day I was there. We're going to head down the West End now. The West End is one of the trendiest parts of Glasgow. Vintage clothing, I think frothy coffees, Café Françoise, Santa Lucia Deli and Thunderdog. It's unclear whether this building went woke first or broke first, but it's certainly both. So we're heading south under the A14, and it seems that under the bridge is some kind of dodgy hangout. This right here is the Riverside Museum, which, like the Botanical Gardens, was also closed. Glasgow and the River Clyde were renowned for their shipbuilding. This tall ship here is Glen Lee, over 125 years, and has had a career as an Italian shipping boat, Spanish Navy vessel, and now it's a museum. Across the Clyde we go to another area with a bit of a reputation. So this is Govan. Like Gorbals, this was a rough area that has been spruced up a little recently, albeit not a complete overhaul like Gorbals. The TV programme Rabsy Nesbitt was set here. The area must have improved a bit since the 90s because I didn't see any drunk guys cutting about in string vests. The general consensus is indeed that it is much improved, but still faces some challenges with poverty and crime. So we're going to head south now. It's a bit more industrial and there's a few more derelict buildings. Speaking of derelicts, Glasgow has a few derelict beauties, like this former nursing home, this old tenement building, the humongous Met Tower, and perhaps not so nice here at the Space. This is kind of balanced out by swanky modern arenas near Celtic Park and down by the river. And as well as all of this, you have the 55-hectare Glasgow Green, the Royal Infirmary Hospital, the 12th century Glasgow Cathedral, the Victorian Necropolis, the lively Barras Market, the third oldest subway system in the world, all of the murals, and the centrepiece, George Square, which was closed for improvements while I was there. We haven't even got started on the city centre yet, so let's head there now. First off, I have to say, in my humble opinion of course, Glasgow is the realest city in Britain. Only in Glasgow would you find a police box outside the Ivy restaurant with "All coppers are bastards" graffitied onto it. Only in Glasgow would a local kick a terrorist in the balls when he's already on fire. Only in Glasgow would you find the remains of a cup of soup and a Tupperware packed lunch in a phone box. And only in Glasgow would a drunk be shouting obscenities aimed at Hollywood groomers while they're trying to film a Spider-Man movie.
Spider-Man's a bloody helpful.
As we head down a back alley, we find a bottle of vodka, empty of course, and a soiled pair of pants. The three main shopping streets in Glasgow are Argyle Street, Buchanan Street and Sauchiehall Street. It's a very vibrant place. The first two streets in particular are buzzing, but Sauchiehall, well, not so much these days. This place used to be buzzing, lively pubs and plenty of shops, but the general decline of the high street, more than one fire on the street, constant roadworks, less people going to pubs and clubs has led to what you're seeing in these images here. Apparently, it's undergoing a regeneration, but there's not much evidence of that. To top it all off, if you look away now, if you're having your dinner, there are some pigeons here chowing down on a pool of vomit. Lovely. For all its faults, I bloody love Glasgow. I can make an hour-long video on this city, no problem. I watched another video when I was doing a research on worst places in Scotland, and the fella that did the rankings voted Glasgow number 1, the worst city. Well, I completely disagree. In fact, I think it could well be the best city in Scotland. In fact, one of the best in Britain. And one thing you have to say about Glasgow is it's never ever boring. Right, let's move on to the next place. Number 19 is Leith. So, spoiler alert folks, Edinburgh isn't going to be on this list. Kind of. Technically, Leith is part of Edinburgh these days, but I feel that it's distinct enough from Edinburgh to be included on this list. I'm mostly including it for its historical reputation and the fact that the novel and movie of Trainspotting was set here. So, Leith has a population of just over 50,000 and is basically the port area of Edinburgh. Its traditional industries of glassworks, soapworks and storage of whisky have pretty much gone now, and Leith is more of a cruise port, but more on that later. There is a fair bit of graffiti, as you can see here, and the odd boarded up shop, and you're bound to find a can of Iron Brew out in the wild. 4-time Scottish League winners Hibernian are the local football team. Hibernian were founded by Irish folk in Edinburgh, and Hibernian actually means island in Latin. Leith, like most of Edinburgh to be honest, has some beautiful architecture, although unfortunately some idiots are letting the side down a bit. I think this person's beyond help, to be honest. At the foot of the walk, which is the northern end of Leith Walk, is a bit of a dated shopping centre called New Kirkgate. Compared to the rest of Leith, this place looks pretty tired. A bit beyond that, you've got the imposing looking Linksview House building. This was built in the 1960s to ease overcrowding in what were called at the time slum clearances. This building has the brutal appearance of a sort of a Soviet sinkhole estate, but it's safe and secure these days, and the neighbouring building here is Cable's Wynd, aka the Banana Flats, due to its distinctive curve. The two buildings together house 310 homes and have just been promised £69 million between the both of them to modernise them. Walking around, I felt pretty safe. There wasn't much litter, and thankfully I didn't run into any Begbie type characters. Opposite Linksview House, I quite like this inspirational quote as well. So let's head down to the port then, and rather than rough dockers, it's wine bars and boutique hotels and a seagull that's just murdered his mate. Seagulls aside, there's nothing rough about this part of Leith, and thankfully the shit graffiti taggers have mostly left it alone. As we head back to town though, and even the grannies are getting in on the graffiti here. Ocean Terminal is the name for the shopping centre, as well as the Royal Yacht Britannia. If you can't afford to go and see that, you can always see a Lego model of it for free. Leith is mostly gentrified, but away from the gentrified areas there are some old school pubs and some absolutely terrible road conditions. And yes, more of the same crappy graffiti. But also cute houses, and you've got the tram that will take you into central Edinburgh and the airport. Lots of international shops and restaurants. For example, this one is Georgian and this one is Nigerian. And if you're lucky, like I was, you might even get some sunshine on Leith. Number 18, Dundee. Dundee is the fourth largest city in Scotland with a population of roughly 150,000. Almost as soon as you come out of the railway station, you come across the RRS Discovery, built in 1901 for expeditions to the Antarctic and now a floating museum. Next to this is the Victoria and Albert Museum, which is a design museum which seems to be disguised as a spaceship. Dundee is a high-tech kind of place. The teams behind video games Grand Theft Auto and Lemmings are from Dundee. This is an outdoor video game and this is an electric car charger. Dundee is on the River Tay, which spills out to the North Sea, and it's traditionally a port city, formerly known as the home of jute, jam and journalism. This is the HMS Unicorn, a pretty eccentric ship, over 200 years old now, and it's actually one of the 6 oldest ships in the world. Nearby to the Unicorn there's this ship as well, and I've no idea what it was. Also inside the dock is an inflatable water park. Unfortunately the waterfront does have some rubbish graffiti, and just around the corner it does get a bit gritty. This is Customs House, built in 1842 and very busy during Dundee's heyday. It fell into disrepair and is in the process now of being converted into apartments. The grittiness continues with a few large derelict buildings. Dundee is undergoing a transformation at the moment to the tune of £1 billion, and it's due to be complete by around 2031. Alright, we're going to head to the city centre then, and brace yourselves because there are some beautiful old buildings in serious decline. This street is called Seagate. It's hard to find out what exactly happened to this street, but I did see a news article that stated that one building here had to have emergency repairs as it could fall down at any moment. Even David Brent couldn't save this place. Somebody was clearly angry with this phone box. They do charge 60p a call these days, so I can understand the frustration. Alright, so let's leave Seagate behind then. Here on Peter Street, almost everything is closed down apart from Yvonne's fancy dress shop. Good for you, Yvonne. There's a nice alleyway here. There's a lot of alleyways like this in the city centre. Dundee looks kind of rough in these images, but it feels a lot safer than it looks, if that makes any sense. In the centre then, and away from the alleyways, it's a bustling city. There's loads of statues as well. Here's one of Admiral Adam Duncan. Then we've got polar bears and penguins relating to the Antarctic expeditions. Here we've got Uwa Woolley. You'll have to excuse my pronunciation there. This is from the comic by DC Thompson. Lemmings from the aforementioned iconic 90s video game. This poor fella at the top looks like he's got something in his eye. And then we've got Desperate Dan and Minnie the Minx, from the iconic Dandy and Beano comics. This is the DC Thompson offices, which you can just wander into. These are the guys that created the Dandy and Beano and Uwa Woolley. You can just wander in, have a look around on the reception floor, and see Desperate Dan's cow pie and Nasher and Dennis the Menace. The city is a lively one. This was a summer, but it's lively all year round too, thanks to all the students with the University of Dundee here and Aberdeen University as well. For this landlord, it seems there are too many students. Please send him your thoughts and prayers, guys. The West End is the cool end of Dundee, with a lot of characterful buildings and trendy pubs. This is where you'll find the students socialising. A traffic cone on a bus stop, because why not? TGI Fridays and Go is gone. The McManus is a highly rated art gallery and museum. This is a rather grandiose looking court and an imposing police station just around the corner from that. This is how police stations should look, in my opinion. No fuss, just pure brutalism. Speaking of no fuss, check this place out. This is the Keeler Centre. According to the Courier newspaper, this shopping centre was like a heart transplant for Dundee when it was opened in 1979. Well, in 2025 it seems someone has turned off the life support machine, because since the time of recording this video and the time of editing it, apparently the shopping centre has closed down. According to Google, I might not be correct on that one, but that's what Google is telling me. So when this place opened in 1979, there were queues outside and the first 350 shoppers were given a commemorative crown. When I was there in July 2025, I doubt they even got 350 punters in a single day. I felt like I was in an apocalypse movie. I was half expecting to look around and see a gang of zombies chasing after me. Somebody outside the shopping centre had had an accident. And there don't seem to be any specific rough areas of Dundee, but Hilltown was one name that popped up a lot when I was researching. So I headed up there, and it is one heck of a hill. This old lady was on her way into town. She was about 90, bless her. I hope she can get a bus on the way back up. So Hilltown did have a few closed shops and pubs and stuff, but it seemed alright to me. It had quite a nostalgic feel to it, pretty much accentuated by these quotes here that I'll just let you read. Remember, you do have a pause button if that was going a bit too fast for you to read. So, Dundee FC, they play at Dens Park. They've won the Scottish League once, and the following season they got to European Cup semi-final where they were beaten over 2 legs by AC Milan. Their friendly groundsman let me in to take some footage, so they're my favourite team in Dundee now. Just down the road, and I mean literally down the road, a minute's walk away, so I've sped this up 5 times, you'll find Dundee United, who play at Tannadice Park. They've won the Scottish League once as well, and also got to the European Cup semi-finals, narrowly losing against Roma. My favourite stat about Dundee United is they have a 100% record against Barcelona. Played them twice, beat them twice. This area is called Stobswell. It's a bit on the scruffy side, as you can see here, and I was interested to see just around the closed down Lion pub this Italian pizzeria and curry place, because you know how those Italians love their curry. These steps are known as the Frankenstein steps. The author Mary Shelley lived in a cottage at the top of these steps and was said to be inspired by her surroundings when she wrote Frankenstein. The cottage has long since been demolished. There's a transport museum and another cone on a bus stop. And back to the city centre then, and the alleyways again. Now, once again, you might be thinking, looking at this, that Dundee looks rougher than Desperate Dan's beard rubbing up on the sandpaper. But according to the Daily Record and multiple other sources, Dundee is the safest city in Scotland. Anyway, I personally like Dundee. It's a cool little city, and I quite like cities with a bit of an edgy side. There's a lot more that I could show you, but I'm afraid the running time on this video is going to be stupidly long. So let's move on to the next place. Number 17, Aberdeen. As we arrive at Aberdeen on the train, making our way out of the station into Union Square Shopping Centre. As we step outside there, we see why Aberdeen is known as the Granite City. Aberdeen is the third largest city in Scotland and a port city with passenger ferries to the Orkney and Shetland Islands and freight connections to Norway. In recent history, Aberdeen became very wealthy due to North Sea oil and gas reserves. The area with the most notorious reputation is Tory, so I headed there first. From what I'd read online, part of the reason this isn't a desirable place to live is because of its proximity to the port and the amount of fish that are processed here and the smell that kicks up. I can confirm that down by the warehouses it certainly did have a bit of a whiff to it, but not in the centre where we find ourselves here. One thing I noticed in this area is an excess of barbershops. There's 7 within a minute's walk of each other. Heading dockside, the smell of salmon, cod, herring and haddock was quite bizarrely making me hungry, but I wanted to earn my lunch first, so I walked up to Tory Battery, which had some pretty nice views looking north over the port and the River Dee and east across the North Sea. I then headed to the area of Balnagasc, which I believe is still part of Tory, and this is reportedly one of the most deprived areas of Aberdeen. The housing didn't look great. Average house prices here, according to Zoopla, are around £52,500. But the area seemed clean and the locals were friendly. You're close to the sea here and the smell of fish, mercifully, doesn't reach up here onto the hill. Back in the main part of Tory, and there's some boarded up shops and housing, but none of that stupid graffiti we saw in Leith or Dundee. Here we have an entire row of Euro shops. And coming up, a local traditional boozer. Back to the city centre then, and I do love this architecture despite it being grey. We're on Union Street now, the most famous road in Aberdeen. I've seen quite a few social media posts about Union Street, and every other comment seems to be it's not what it used to be, it's a shadow of its former self, etc. Now you see these comments all the time on social media. Sometimes it's rose tinted specs, sometimes the place has actually declined, but usually it's somewhere in between. Any Aberdonians watching, maybe you can let me know in the comments. Whether it's declined or not, I liked it. You don't get many city thoroughfares as grand as this anywhere in the UK. These are the Union Terrace Gardens, a nice place to hang out. From what I can tell online, this is a vast improvement on how we looked a few years ago. Apparently it looks really nice here lit up at night as well, but being midsummer the sun didn't go down till 10:30 or something like that, and that's way past my bedtime. At the end of Union Street is Castlegate, located where the medieval castle of Aberdeen used to be. Back down on the north side of the port area then, we're heading to an area called Fitty, past the Fitty Bar and the now shut down Neptune Bar. The heart of Fitty is the colourful and highly Instagrammable fishing village. Heading north from Fitty is the North Sea coastline. Aberdeen has some typical seaside resort attractions and the golden sands of a genuinely really nice beach. Aberdeen Football Club play their home games at Pittodrie. Their nickname is the Dons, but fans of other teams might call them something else. Aberdeen are the only Scottish team to win 2 European Cups, the Cup Winners' Cup and the European Super Cup, managed by Sir Alex Ferguson at the time. Aberdeen are generally considered to be the third club of Scotland. It's an old school football stadium and I do appreciate the granite brickwork contrasting with the red paint. There aren't too many tower blocks in Aberdeen, I can't remember seeing many more than this, and this is the Broadford Works, a former textile mill closed in 2004. The John Lewis building is one of the few brutalist buildings in the city. This building is currently vacant. We're now back in the city centre. The Gothic Mariscal College building is on the left and the statue of Robert the Bruce outside. Worth another look with the fountain included. Provost Skeen's house is now a museum celebrating all things Aberdeen. This creepy face belonged to Alexander Russell, placed on his home to spite his neighbour after a dispute, meaning his neighbour would have to look at this face every day. Denis Law from Aberdeen is the only Scottish footballer to have won the Ballon d'Or. The street art in Aberdeen is generally inoffensive, although I did have to look twice at this hanging bird. A lot of the shop facades are colourful to alleviate the grey a little bit. although I do think the council trying to rebrand it as a silver city is a bit far-fetched. This is from the works going on around Aberdeen Market, which are due to be completed in 2026. So that's Aberdeen. It's vibrant and colourful, even amongst the grey. It's a safe, clean city, which is well worth checking out. Number 16, Inverness, the capital of the Highlands. Viewed here from the northern end of the Keswick Bridge, Inverness is a city of around 48,000 people. The northernmost city in the UK, Inverness is actually further north than Copenhagen, Riga and Moscow. It's a city with tons of history going way back to the Picts and beyond. In its more modern history during the post-war period, like so many other places, Inverness did go into decline. However, it's bounced back and it's now one of Europe's fastest growing cities. It's a big tourist hub, especially in the summer months. Lots and lots of bars and restaurants to cater for these tourists, as well as all the kilts and whiskey and bagpipes and whatever else it is that tourists buy. The Victoria Market is well worth a look, especially if you're a foodie. It's pretty quiet in the morning, but look how it changes in the afternoon. Abertarf House is the oldest house in Inverness. The castle was closed, unfortunately, and somebody clearly wasn't happy about this. The River Ness looks very picturesque in the sunshine, as does the Nessbank Church and many of the other monuments alongside the river. Inverness, being far from other large population centres, has very clean air and very clean water due to the proximity of the mountains. While Inverness obviously isn't as cosmopolitan as Glasgow and Edinburgh, there are events going on throughout the year. Inverness Cathedral is impressive, and across the river from there we've got a good view of the castle. There's a lot of nice hotels if you've got the money, but for peasants like me it's out onto the back streets, and some of them are a bit scruffy. Some parts of town, like the part of town I was staying in, are just wall-to-wall guest houses. This was a Saturday afternoon in August, and as you can see it is pretty quiet. There's not much in terms of boarded up houses in Inverness. There's a couple of buildings here on the riverfront, his and hers, right next to each other. But most of the riverfront looks like this. It's pretty nice. Eastgate Shopping Centre is the main shopping centre in the city. It's right next to the railway station. Inverness is quite a small, compact city. It's very walkable. And I can't not mention Inverness Caledonian Thistle, who now play in the third tier of Scottish football, but were responsible for perhaps the greatest headline in tabloid history when, after beating Celtic in a cup match, the Scottish Sun came up with "Super Cali go ballistic, Celtic are atrocious." Genius. So that's Inverness. It's a nice enough city, quite intimate without being particularly exciting, and it's also pretty safe. It's a little bit scruffy in parts, but for me the best thing about it is its proximity to nature and the promise of Highland adventure. Number 15, Stirling. Now, Stirling is a city, again, this time with a population of around 38,000, so a few less than Inverness. Stirling is known as the gateway to the Highlands due to its position where the lowlands meet the highlands. This strategic position is what made the city important initially, as well as being the lowest point of the River Forth before it spills out into the Firth of Forth. This is the modern city centre, and honestly it's pretty uninspiring really, same as mostly any other place of the size of Stirling. Couple of boarded up shops like this large BHS store here. If you head up the hill, however, and watch out for the ladders, it gets a lot better. as we enter the old town. Again, it's a touristy area, pubs, churches, and an all year bloody round Christmas shop. Okay, so there's the odd eyesore, and this has to be the ugliest Wetherspoons in Scotland. But apart from that, the old town is nice. I'd love to stay somewhere like this, the 4-star Stirling Highland Hotel, but this youth hostel here is more my budget. New inmates welcome, reads the sign of the Old Town Jail tourist attraction. It's all very Scottish and the tourists are loving it. This is the Star Pyramid, which, and I quote, "The pyramid is dedicated to all those who suffered martyrdom in the cause of civil and religious liberty in Scotland." As we head up to the famous castle then, and the tourists are here in their droves. A Boer War soldier and Robert the Bruce stand guard outside the castle gates, where the walk-up admission is £18.50 for an adult, but obviously you can get it cheaper online. I've been to the castle before, and like I said, I'm on a budget, so I'm not paying to go in again. Plus, there's all of these tourists, I can't be doing with them, so no, not for me, thanks. Over here in the distance is the National Wallace Monument. And that's where we're headed, down the hill, through the alleyway, past the site of the Battle of Stirling Bridge. And that was as close as I got to the monument because it costs £11.65 to visit. This is Cambuskenneth Abbey in a small village just outside of Stirling. A very cute little village it is too. Over another bridge and we are now going back into Stirling itself. As you can see, there's plenty of shops and Stirling is very well connected for Glasgow and Edinburgh. It has a below average crime rate. While I was researching, I saw a video that said Stirling has a castle, a monument, and enough drugs to sedate Eastern Europe. But rather than hordes of smacked out zombie-like junkies, all I came across were hordes of tourists who might as well have been smacked out their heads, the way they were gawping at everything and constantly blocking the path. At least these 3 idiots got fined for parking their hire cars on double yellows on top of the hill by the castle, presumably because they're too damn lazy to walk up there. Still, I'm sure they can afford the parking fine. In the old town, it does feel very old and quite atmospheric. I do like the old town of Stirling, I have to say. Stirling's also got an arcade that we can go and check out. It wasn't that busy, but it's got a nice little courtyard. The railway station in Stirling is slightly annoying as all the platforms are all over the place. Why 6 next to 8 for... Anyway, that's Stirling. Number 14, Motherwell. Finally, a town and not a city. A commuter town at that, being about 15 minutes on the fastest train to and from Glasgow Central. The transport hub here includes buses, and if you've got someone to push you along, then why not jump in a trolley? There's enough of them lying around. The old town hall here is currently under construction, and I hate it when that happens. Alright, let's just talk about Motherwell then. So Motherwell gets its name from the Lady Well, a well dedicated to the Virgin Mary, located right here outside the town centre. For a long time, Motherwell was just a small village until the railways arrived, and with them an iron and a steelworks. That was very successful for a long time until the inevitable post-industrial decline happened and Motherwell suffered as a result. Motherwell is now bouncing back. It currently has a population of about 33,000 and it's practically joint with the town next door, Wishaw, but I'm just concentrating on Motherwell here. The town centre shopping precinct looks pretty dated, as you can see, with a few shops closed down, and I'm not quite sure what to make of this artwork. At least if you're a little person, you can just bomb about in a Batmobile to make it more exciting. It costs mummy and daddy £5 an hour though. So yeah, Motherwell shopping centre. Same shops as everywhere, I suppose. There were some tower blocks looming in the distance, so I wanted to go and check those out. The police are outside this house, but I don't think anything major had kicked off. This area is called Airballs, and I'm not sure what happened here. Now, my experiences around tower blocks in post-industrial towns in England had given me a few preconceptions about these kind of areas. But in Scotland it seems a bit different. Airballs was clean, there wasn't a speck of litter on the ground, and the only thing letting it down was this new driver's parking. Crikey, you're going to have to call a taxi to get from the car to the curb. Now, Motherwell's architecture isn't the prettiest, I have to admit. The Civic Centre is unique. However, this graveyard and this church were nice. Club 100 is close to Motherwell FC. Motherwell play in the Scottish Premiership and have done for the last 40 years. They play here at Fir Park and are known as the Steel Men, in reference to the town's steel heritage, and play in a distinctive claret and amber. Motherwell get a good atmosphere at their games, and they have an ultras section and a friendship with Dutch side NEC Nijmegen. So we walked back past Airballs then, and the streets are still clean and the grass has been cut, and a little way out of town is the Strathclyde Country Park. Now this park contains a theme park, Roman artefacts, and the loch, which is built on an abandoned mining village. It's also got the most chilled out ducks I've ever seen. Back towards town then, and I hardly encountered any mess, just that discarded toy there and a little bit rubbish in this park. There was a bit of graffiti, but as you'll see, it's stuff that actually meant something. It's about the football team, not the squiggly lines and tags. Okay, so there's a bit of graffiti on this railway bridge that probably doesn't mean much. A large block of flats here in the centre of the picture that is boarded up. A nice church here that's also got a bit boarded up. The North Lanarkshire Heritage Centre, where you can learn all about Motherwell and the surrounding areas, is here just by the railway station. And so we go back through the clean streets then, past this strange red tree on the right hand side and onto the fast train out of Motherwell. Not a bad place at all. Number 13, Dumbarton. Dumbarton on the River Clyde is also very close to Glasgow, about 13 miles to the west of it. The summer storm was still raging, hence this squeaky sign. Dumbarton has loads of history going back to the Iron Age and beyond, including millions of years of volcanic history. Into the town centre then, and it is pretty tired. This bingo hall here closed down in the year 2020. There is quite a bit of regeneration works going on at the moment. Believe it or not, this was filmed in August, not at Halloween. So Dumbarton was an industrial town, a centre for shipbuilding, glassmaking and whisky, heavily bombed by the Luftwaffe in World War II, with the Germans targeting the shipyards, with the town ending up as residual and collateral damage. Here are some comments from a YouTube video on Dumbarton. 1. I was born and raised in Dumbarton and can remember when it was a bustling town. It's like a ghost town now. Sad to see how desolate it is now. Comment 2. Jesus, this does not look like the Dumbarton I remember when visiting when I was young. My mum was born there and worked for Ballantyne's for a bit. I'm not sure if I should show you her this, but I probably will. And comment number 3, born and bred in Dumbarton. Sad to see this ghost town. And I think that pretty much sums up the town centre. There's nothing more I really need to add on that. We head over the River Leven then, because tower blocks and some battered old boats. This area, Bruce Hill, used to have a bit of a reputation back in the day, but it seems okay now. Down by the banks of the river, it would seem that it's even safe to leave your bike unattended. Unless that's a stolen bike, obviously. The riverside area of Dumbarton is all very nice really, as is the view of the beach and the Dumbarton Rock there and the castle. And looking south, this is the view towards Renfrewshire. And this is the town marina. So we head back into town now, and we head past the nice part, which is the eastern side of Dumbarton. This is the old shipping offices. And also on the Heritage Trail, this is the rather small old prison. Dumbarton FC play in the 4th Division of Scottish football in a very picturesque setting, although those ticket prices are a bit expensive for the 4th tier. The setting is next to Dumbarton Castle, which is somewhere I've been looking forward to visiting for a long time, and here I find it... oh, bollocks. Due to the summer storm, only the bottom half of the castle was open, but I went in anyway, and it was well worth it, if only for the views. Somebody here had lost their umbrella. Next to the castle, the Queenswater apartments have just been built. 2-bedroom luxury apartments here are around £280,000. Back towards the town then, and we're heading up to Dumbarton East railway station. There's a nice poster here of Dumbarton Castle, what it looks like from the river, but it's time for us to move on to the next place. Number 12 is Greenock. Now before we get into it, let's just appreciate some of the buildings of Greenock. I especially like the Greenock Sheriff Court here. Anyway, Greenock is on the southern banks of the River Clyde this time. It's got a population of about 43,000 and is traditionally a port town. In Greenock's heyday, rum came from the Caribbean, wine came from Spain, and at one point Wales came from the Arctic. The port is still in use, albeit on a smaller scale, and it's also used as a cruise port. Here in Greenock West, it's mostly pretty nice aside from the odd fly-tipped fridge and boarded-up building. Up here on Lisle Hill, we get a fantastic view across the Clyde and towards the Trossachs. Some fine Scottish scenery here. There's the town of Gourock there on the left, and Greenock over on the right. And this memorial here is for the Free French Navy, who were based at Greenock during World War II. As we head down the hill then and we come across Fort Matilda, we can see that Greenock has a lot of beautiful green space. This gym had been fenced off, but the summer storm wasn't having any of it. So the first time I'd heard of Greenock was when I watched a film called Sweet 16, which was based here. The film used local actors, and because of the strong accents, they had to use subtitles when the movie was shown in England. Anyway, that film portrayed Greenock as a pretty violent and depressing place, kind of like Trainspotting portrayed Leith as a place full of junkies, I guess. So I was relieved to see that Greenock is actually pretty easy on the eye. And I didn't see any Neds or any violent psychopaths like were in that movie. But like most town centres, it wasn't great. This is West Blackhall Street, which has the highest crime rate of any street in Greenock, and that is usually the case on most streets where there's shops to shoplift in and pubs to fight in. The shopping centre wasn't great. There's a lot of closed down shops in this one, and a leaking roof which seemed to be on both sides, and they've had to tape off the shops by the looks of it on both sides. So I've never seen anything like that before. That's pretty bad. Wallace Place is very grand, nice architecture here, the perfect place to sup an Eldorado. The feeling of grandeur cannot last forever, however. Post-war architecture had to rear its ugly head here once again. And this area is pretty darn awful. It's not often I would say that it would be better if they just demolished it, but as far as I can see, on this particular block, there's nothing worth salvaging. And if we look at the names on the shop fronts here, they're not actually shops. A lot of them look like they're sort of places for recovering addicts and to help homeless folk, but they're all shuttered up, and clearly they're sending people off to somewhere else now because these places don't look like they've been open for a while. And this is all opposite the town hall here. One great thing about this square is the Men of Clyde statue here. This sits outside. This is 3 men depicted here carrying a ship propeller. Over here we find some underpasses and tower blocks, so let's go and check out this side of Greenock. And what a charming welcome. So there's a bus station there, but really there's not much going on by this tower block. But I think I've succeeded in finding the crappy part of town here. But that was only a small area, so we headed down to the waterfront again. This is a sculpture of a sunken boat. It's quite nice down here. You can see that a lot of money's been invested in it. And a cruise ship was in the terminal here. A lot of the large cruise companies dock here, like Holland America and P&O. And it's usually cruises of the Western Isles of Scotland. The building on the right here is the old customs house, and on the left is a brand new cafe. This is heading east out of town along East Hamilton Street, and it's very industrial and very busy along this road. Greenock Morton have their stadium in an industrial estate. They play in the second tier of Scottish football. It looks like they haven't cleaned up since the last game. And that's about it from Greenock. Again, I thought it was alright. It was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. Number 11 is Kilmarnock, affectionately known as Killy, and to me will always be known as the home of Fanny by Gaslight and the Dick Institute. A nice proud message here from a local, and a reference to the song Ballroom Blitz by Sweet, which is about a real life riot that occurred here in Killy. Scotland's first railway started here in Killy too. I wish they had these interesting facts and boards in every town. It would make my job a lot easier. So the town centre of Killy isn't the best. Bad roads there and concrete and boarded up shops. You'll see quite a few of these. Then you have the New Lake Kirk with the homeless Jesus outside. There's quite a few similar statues around the world. And this is a statue of Johnny Walker, he of the whisky fame. Whisky was established here in Killy over 200 years ago. His favourite poet Robert Burns here. There's a few statues in the town actually, like this fella reading the local paper. This one is simply called The Swimmer, and this is what you get when you pose like that. You deserve to be shat on, mate. Kilmarnock is in East Ayrshire with a population of around 52,000. It's another ex-industrial town that got an overhaul in the 1970s, and all the joy that that brings. The moor is named after Robert Burns. Killy was the first place in which his poems were published. This is the Palace Theatre, still in use now and built in the early 1860s. And this is the Dick Institute, a cultural centre which contains a museum, art gallery, library and space for events. You can find the Dick Institute on Dick Road, which, to be honest with you, is a pretty scruffy road. The flats opposite aren't really up to much, and the town centre, as I said before, it's definitely seen much better days. Titchfield Street is a street which can be politely described as being on its arse. I was struggling to work out whether this was an Indian restaurant or an Irish pub or both. I even crossed the road for another look and I was still none the wiser. Most of this street was closed and what was open didn't make any sense. Mexican Tex-Mex. Did I not realise that Tex-Mex means Texan Mexican? This is like me asking for a Scotch whisky that's made in Scotland. There was an indoor market, but not much was happening and not many punters about. Places like this kind of make me sad, to be honest. So by this point I'd had enough of the town centre, so I went through the park to go and see the football stadium. So Kilmarnock FC play at Rugby Park and compete in the Scottish Premiership. Killie is actually the oldest professional club in the whole of Scotland. Despite the name, Kilmarnock do not have a rugby team playing here at Rugby Park. It'd be a bit painful if they did, because they play on this plastic pitch. Around the corner from the ground, a road butler Bucky here. Bit of a disaster going on here, and it's not much better along here either. Kilmarnock, I see what you did there. So we're heading north out of town now, and Ayrshire College is probably the most impressive thing in the whole of Kilmarnock. A very swish, modern building. Did I mention, by the way, there was a summer storm? This is Knockinlaw. This and the On-Thank estates became famous around 2010, 2011 when it was subject to a BBC documentary called The Scheme. Now, for non-Scottish viewers, a scheme means a council estate or social housing. The series followed the lives of folks addicted to alcohol and drugs, in and out of prison, and it caused a lot of controversy at the time, being labelled poverty porn. The estate was very quiet on the weekday afternoon. I had a walk around. Aside from a few mattresses and stuff like that, it just looked like an ordinary council estate. Scheme. The pavements, however, were among the worst I've ever seen, and the roads weren't much better either. Your options for shopping on the estates include takeaways and one convenience store. Back in town then, BHS, they closed their stores back in 2016. And then we've got Index, a real blast from the past. They closed theirs in 2005. We've got a whole building missing here, a hole in the ground. And coming up, this is a great way to show how much you love your football club. This is an excellent mural of Lady Boyd. A multi-storey car park was demolished a little while ago in the centre, and a new civic centre is being built. The local council are hoping that it breathes a bit more life into Killie town centre. I hope so too. It has potential. It's got a few nice things going for it, but the town centre is just lacklustre, to say the least. Well, that is it for part 1. Thank you very much for watching. Do make sure you subscribe for part 2. It gets a lot messier.